This chapter is a record of a state document in which Nebuchadnezzar acknowledged God's hand in the illness he experienced. Daniel chapter 4, verses 1 through 3. It was not his intention to reveal all the details of his illness for the sake of information, but in the setting of these circumstances it afforded him an opportunity to witness to the marvelous grace of God in his dealings with him. It sheds an interesting light on the character of Nebuchadnezzar. As a result of his conversion, Nebuchadnezzar became a great missionary. He made known to the entire world his newly found faith. He recommended to all men the joy and peace he had found. He said, "Peace be multiplied unto you." One who experiences the peace of God is anxious to share that which has meant so much to him. Nebuchadnezzar the king, unto all people, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied unto you. I thought it good to show the signs and wonders that the high God hath wrought toward me. How great are his signs, and how mighty are his wonders. His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and his dominion is from generation to generation. Verses 1 through 3. Nebuchadnezzar wanted all people to know of God's dealings with him. He thought it appropriate to publicize this revelation of God. How great and wonderful the means by which God makes himself known. The allusion here is to what had occurred to himself. The event by which such a proud and powerful monarch was reduced to a position so humble. He had come to realize that he, the most powerful ruler on earth, was human, and God had power to reduce him from his position and to give his authority to others. Earthly governments are of short duration, whereas the dominion of God is from generation to generation. The same God is always on the throne. I, Nebuchadnezzar, was at rest in my house and flourishing in my palace. I saw a dream which made me afraid, and the thoughts upon my bed and the visions of my head troubled me. Therefore made I a decree to bring in all the wise men of Babylon before me, that they might make known unto me the interpretation of the dream. Then came in the magicians, the astrologers, the Chaldeans, and the soothsayers, and I told the dream before them, but they did not make known unto me the interpretation thereof. Verses 4 through 7. Approximately 33 years had elapsed since Nebuchadnezzar's dream of the great image in chapter 2. 10 years had passed since he had erected the golden image of chapter 3 with his attempt to compel all men to worship it. Nebuchadnezzar was given a fair warning before the judgment fell. It was at a time when he was at rest and his kingdom was flourishing. One would hardly imagine a man of war, such as he was, becoming fearful because of a dream. But God has the power to make men uneasy. The dream made such an impression on him, he wanted to know its meaning. What an act of folly to summon the wise men of Babylon who pretended by magic, divination, and even the examination of the entrails of beasts, or by looking at and studying the stars, to try to interpret his dream. Already he had proved them to be incomparable to Daniel. He had not forgotten this dream as he had on a previous occasion. This time he related his dream to them, but this time they were unable even to interpret. But at the last Daniel came in before me, whose name was Belteshazzar, according to the name of my God, and in whom is the spirit of the holy God. And before him I told the dream, saying, O Belteshazzar, master of the magicians, because I know that the spirit of the holy God is in thee, and no secret troubleth thee, tell me the visions of my dream that I have seen, and the interpretation thereof. Thus were the visions of my head in my bed. I saw, and behold, a tree in the midst of the earth, and the height thereof was great. The tree grew, and was strong, and the height thereof reached unto heaven, and the sight thereof to the end of all the earth. The leaves thereof were fair, and the fruit thereof much, and in it was meat for all. The beasts of the field had shadow under it, and the fowls of the heaven dwelt in the boughs thereof, and all flesh was fed of it. I saw in the visions of my head upon my bed, and behold, a watcher and an holy one came down from heaven. He cried aloud, and said thus, Hew down the tree, and cut off his branches, and shake off his leaves, scatter his fruit. Let the beasts get away from under it, and the fowls from his branches. Nevertheless leave the stump of his roots in the earth, even with a band of iron and brass, in the tender grass of the field. And let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let his portion be with the beast in the grass of the earth. Let his heart be changed from man's, and let a beast's heart be given unto him, and let 7 times pass over him. This matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basis of men. This dream I, King Nebuchadnezzar, have seen. Now thou, O Belteshazzar, declare the interpretation thereof, forasmuch as all the wise men of my kingdom are not able to make known unto me the interpretation, but thou art able, for the Spirit of the Holy God is in thee. Daniel appeared before the troubled king. Belteshazzar, the heathen name Nebuchadnezzar had given him, did not make him any less the servant of God, for in him was the Spirit of the Holy God. The king considered Daniel to have an insight and foresight into things far beyond his magicians. He declared, I know that no secret troubleth thee. His dream consisted basically of a tree strategically located in the midst of the earth. He observed this tree grow until it reached the height of the heavens, making it visible to all the earth. Nebuchadnezzar may have been somewhat familiar with the symbols of his dream, for in Ezekiel 31, 3-18, Egypt is referred to by the use of almost identical symbols. This may well have contributed to his fear. Ezekiel, one of the Hebrew captives, had prophesied, Behold, I will give the land of Egypt unto Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and he shall take her multitude, and take her spoil, and take her prey, and it shall be the wages for his army. Ezekiel 29:19. Thus saith the Lord God, I will give the land of Egypt unto Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. Ezekiel chapter 30, verse 10. Probably the most important thing the king saw in his dream was the watcher. This was one of the holy ones, an angel. The king's fear was heightened as he saw that as a result of the watcher's command, the tree was cut down. Verse 17 leaves no doubt as to the reason for the dream and the decree. Without this dream and the events which followed, Nebuchadnezzar might never have made a final decision to serve the true and living God. Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, was astonied for 1 hour, and his thoughts troubled him. The king spake and said, Belteshazzar, let not the dream or the interpretation thereof trouble thee. Belteshazzar answered and said, My lord, the dream be to them that hate thee, and the interpretation thereof to thine enemies. The tree that thou sawest, which grew and was strong, whose height reached unto the heavens, and the sight thereof to all the earth, whose leaves were fair, and the fruit thereof much, and in it was meat for all, under which the beasts of the field dwelt, and upon whose branches the fowls of the heaven had their habitation. It is thou, O king, that art grown and become strong, for thy greatness is grown, and reachest unto heaven, and thy dominion to the end of the earth. And whereas the king saw a watcher and an holy one coming down from heaven, and saying, Hew the tree down, and destroy it, yet leave the stump of the roots thereof in the earth, even with a band of iron and brass, in the tender grass of the field, and let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let his portion be with the beast of the field, till 7 times pass over him. This is the interpretation, O king, and this is the decree of the Most High, which is come upon my lord the king, that they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field, and they shall make thee to eat grass as oxen, and they shall wet thee with the dew of heaven, and 7 times shall pass over thee, till thou know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will. Whereas they commanded to leave the stump of the tree roots, thy kingdom shall be sure unto thee. After that thou shalt have known that the heavens do rule. Wherefore, O king, let my counsel be acceptable unto thee, and break off thy sins by righteousness, and thy iniquities by showing mercy to the poor, if it may be a lengthening of thy tranquility. Daniel seemed to understand immediately the interpretation of the dream. He was amazed as well as confused as he realized he must tell the king what was coming. Before making the interpretation, Daniel was able to compliment the king by revealing that he was the tree which had become so great. When he came to the doom tree was to suffer, he tactfully made it clear that this was the decree of the Most High God, and even though, because of his insanity, he would be driven from men for a period of 7 years, yet when he finally realized that the God of heaven is the one who rules and is in control of all things, then he would be returned to his position as king of Babylon. At the close of the interpretation, Daniel ventured some counsel. He appealed to the king to break with sin by accepting God's righteousness. Wherein this heathen king had been harsh in dealing with his subjects, Daniel advised him to show mercy. God oftentimes sends a warning to those who are doing wrong. On many occasions, if the warning is heeded, the threatened judgment has been lifted. It would appear this may have been the case in Nebuchadnezzar's experience, for he was given 1 whole year of probation before the impending judgment came. All this came upon the king Nebuchadnezzar. At the end of 12 months, he walked in the palace of the kingdom of Babylon. The king spake and said, Is not this great Babylon that I have built for the house of the kingdom by the might of my power and for the honor of my majesty? While the word was in the king's mouth, there fell a voice from heaven, saying, O King Nebuchadnezzar, to thee it is spoken, the kingdom is departed from thee. They shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field. They shall make thee to eat grass as oxen, and 7 times shall pass over thee, until thou know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will. The same hour was the thing fulfilled upon Nebuchadnezzar, and he was driven from men, and did eat grass as oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, till his hairs were grown like eagle's feathers, and his nails like birds' claws. At the end of the days I Nebuchadnezzar lifted up mine eyes unto heaven, and my understanding returned unto me, and I blessed the Most High, and I praised and honored him that liveth forever, whose dominion is an everlasting dominion, and his kingdom is from generation to generation. And all the inhabitants of the earth are reputed as nothing, and he doeth according to his will in the army of heaven, and among the inhabitants of earth. And none can stay his hand, or say unto him, What doest thou? At the same time my reason returned unto me, and for the glory of my kingdom my honor and brightness returned unto me. My counselors and my lords sought unto me, and I was established in my kingdom, and excellent majesty was added unto me. Now I Nebuchadnezzar praise and extol and honor the King of heaven, all whose works are truth, and his ways are judgment, and those that walk in pride he is able to abase. There is an indication in verse 28 that the proud monarch paid little attention to the counsel given by Daniel. Pride had become the habitual attitude of the king. Because the judgment was delayed for 12 months, it was easier for him to disregard Daniel's advice, and he was strengthened in his belief that it was his wisdom and power that was responsible for all of his great accomplishments. 1 year later, the judgment came which God had revealed to him in the dream. He had lost none of his pride. He had made no headway in returning to God. When God spoke, he was immediately deprived of his status as king of Babylon, and furthermore, he was stripped of human dignity. The disease with which Nebuchadnezzar was afflicted is not unheard of. When a person regards himself as a beast and attempts to imitate its way of life, this is called insania zoanthropica. The disease of those who think themselves wolves is referred to as lycanthropy. These diseases are rarely destructive to life and often end in permanent recovery after a period of months or years. See Random House Dictionary of the English Language, unabridged, 1966. In summary, Nebuchadnezzar's recovery was as sudden as was his loss of reason. It was the upper look which brought the restoration of his mind. His last testimony was one of praise and honor to the God of heaven. He came to realize that God lives forever. His kingdom endures from one generation to another. The nations are as nothing before him. He is in control of all things. It is useless to resist him. Whatever he does is right, and God can humble the proudest of his enemies. So far as we know, Nebuchadnezzar died a firm believer in the true God.